Okay.
All right, I want to welcome everyone to tonight's Water Pollution Control Authority meeting, Wednesday, January 20th, an eventful day in our country's history. Are there any proposed changes to tonight's agenda before we proceed?
Mark, I'd like to make a motion to move to right after the meeting minutes, the discussion on from Chris DeAngelis, representing Tim Warren and the Carriage Drive neighborhood folk.
Okay. Is there a second?
This is Quinn. I'll second.
Thank you, Quinn. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
So let's move to the approval of the December 9th special meeting minutes. You may recall that was a special meeting as we moved it up from the regularly scheduled meeting. Any comments, questions on the meeting minutes?
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the December 9th special meeting as presented.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second that motion.
Thank you, Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Next one's a little trickier. The December 16th. Yeah, the December 16th special RFP interview meeting minutes. We posted that as a official meeting, as there were a number of individuals who indicated that they wished to join. I think in the end it was Joe, myself, and Nancy. So I defer to the three of us to motion and second those meeting minutes.
I'll move. So moved.
I will second again, Mark.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Joe, Nancy, and Mark. We will touch on that discussion point in a few minutes. Okay, so we have now moved up from old business, letter A, presentation by Chris DeAngelis and Tim Warren on the Carriage Drive neighborhood for possible sewer extension. This has been in front of us for the last few months. And Chris Rogers, I'm going to ask you to frame this for us.
Sure. So at the last meeting, we requested that the neighborhood get some quotes. They did get a quote from one of the contractors to install this line. It works out to about $234,000 to install this line from Mill Hill to the end of the cul-de-sac on Carriage Drive. I think that was the proposed plan that we were going to go with. So if anybody, Chris DeAngelis, wants to follow up with anything on that, or Tim.
Hi, everybody. I don't want to steal Chris's thunder. He's way more informed. Chris, you want to go first, or did you want me to go first?
Hey, Chris, you're on mute.
Chris, you're muted. Hold on. No, he's muted. I don't know why. I can't unmute him either.
I don't see that Chris has.
Let's see.
Okay, there we go. There he is.
All right, there he is.
All right,
you were
sorry
muted,
about
Chris.
that. Yep.
No. You want me to launch your screen, or?
Yeah, sure. I can bring the plans back up. We haven't changed much of the plans. We just received one quote from Tallman Excavation. Other than that, Tim and I believe some of his neighbors are going to be on. The commission wanted to hear directly from them rather than from me about the interest. But at least now we have a hard bid price for what it costs to install the sewer main. So why don't you, if you allow me to share, I'll bring the plans back up.
Yeah, yep. You should be there.
Okay. share. Okay. Okay, so everyone can see my screen. This is the original plan. This is the first option, which was connect to the sewer main in Mill Terrace, extend about 820 or 30 feet northerly up Carriage Drive to the intersection with Southport. The quote that Tim Warren received was for doing this work. I think there was just miscommunication. I know, Chris, you had asked for Tim maybe to get a cost of what would connect the individual houses to the main so that the homeowners could weigh the benefits of, could see how much it would cost for them to hook up individually. But what Tallman actually priced out was installing the main, but not the laterals to each house. So that $234,000 estimate, which I'll bring up in a second, is for doing the work that you see in front of you. It's 830 feet of installation of sewer at the depths shown on this plan with the 3 manholes. And he also included, within that 234, he included repaving the entire road curb to curb for the entire length of the cul-de-sac. The other option, just to remind you again, that we looked at, if I scroll down to the next page, was to bring the sewer line, this would be westerly up from Southport Terrace, and then to kind of T-bone it in both the south and north directions. The deficiency in this plan is we can't read all the houses. It's a shorter run. It's a little bit less expensive. And then Chris, separately, you and I had discussed out there in the field one day the possibility of doing this same alignment where we extend in Southport Terrace, but keeping it very shallow. Right, you can see how deep I've got the over here on the right-hand side of the sheet. You can see how deep I've got the sewer line so that we can connect as many houses as possible via gravity. But we talked about maybe bringing this up at a shallower depth to save some money. And that would cause the houses to, most of the houses to have to connect via a pump system. So they would have to convert their existing septic tank into a pumping chamber, and then they could connect to this very shallow manhole. So we were calling that like option, I think 2A or something like that. But regardless, what we have from Tallman, which Tim went out and got a price from, is the cost of installing the entire, line in Carriage Drive, 830 feet with the 3 manholes. That's $155,000 plus another $78,000 or $79,000 for repaving the road. He's calling this a permanent patch, mill and pave 1 inch curb to curb. So if you do the math, I think there's 5 houses on the street. So $234,000 divided by the 5 houses comes out to about $47,000 per house. But that doesn't include the lateral cost to hook up each individual house. So we still don't know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like we're getting closer to solving the engineering component, but the economic component is probably looking a bit less attractive to the homeowners, but perhaps they would like to weigh in on this.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi, good evening. This is Joe Giederman and my wife, Carrie Giederman. We're at 95 Carriage Drive. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk with you this evening. I'll try to be real brief. We've been at this location for, I think, about 13 years now. We actually moved from 5 houses over on Mill Hill Terrace, right over to here to Carriage Drive, because we just love this area. And our biggest challenge over at Mill Hill Terrace, and since we moved here, has been the extreme high water table. This goes back to 2007, 2008, where certainly in the spring, after just a few rainstorms, the entire street, both the front yards and the backyards from the Kyoto's property, from the property now across the street, which is kind of that Southport development. All of that was just, inches of water every spring. And that was 13 years ago. And since then, as many of you may know, the development went in across the street where there was 30 plus acres. We approved, or the town approved 18 homes going in there, which has just accelerated the high water levels. Not only that, but I can count at least
Probably
8 or 9 of the 18 homes have swimming pools. So we continue to have a problem where there's just not sufficient drainage and the water table, and it's become an incredible problem.
Okay.
And so I would love to again, with this team and our neighborhood association, try to come up with ways to alleviate some of this pain and
talk to what was supposed to be done prior.
yeah,
to-
and my wife just brought up a point. You know, we had talked with the Thompsons, who were at the end of the street. This goes back, 15 years ago. And we just couldn't come up with paperwork to
because they had
substantiate it.
moved, yeah.
But the deal was with the new development 13, 14 years ago was, yes, we're not gonna put up a stink. You could certainly come down Carriage Drive to access this new development. And the plan was to put in sewer for the entire Carriage Drive. That was part of the deal that was kind of drawn up, or
At least proposed to us.
us and the Thompsons at the time, who were at the end of the street. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, it certainly would have made a lot of sense to do it at that time.
Right. Yeah, and at the time, Carriage Drive, hadn't been repaved in 30, 40 years. It was, under a lot of stress as well. So, thank you.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chairman, are there any other neighbors?
Oh, I'll jump in. This is Tim. Can you guys hear me okay?
Sure can.
Yes, Tim, thank you.
Thanks, Joe, for jumping on. I think we've got somebody from each one of the houses we're from the neighborhood on the call today, which I'm really grateful to. I just knocked on some doors and
Great.
So thanks. I think everybody's at the table. We might be missing a few folks because they were planning on closer to 7:30. But so we're at 63 Carriage Drive, and one thing I gathered from talking to Cale Tallman about the excavation quote, which is, it's a big number, but the biggest parts of the number are the mill and pave. And I know that Carriage Drive has been milled and paved a couple times to put in the storm line. And I'm assuming that when they put in the new development, maybe there was something like that happening. According to Cale, I think they had done Carriage Drive like 2 times in the last 10 or 12 years. But so, I mean, there's nothing we can do about that. But one thing he did note, and I don't know if Chris DeAngelis could speak to this, but is that the proposed depth of putting in the sewer line could be shallower. And if it was shallower, I think that would have a significant, it would reduce the cost by maybe a lot of money. I don't know if there are codes that prevail with that, but that's just what I gathered from my conversation with him. And our system's old. I know I can just speak for my family in saying that, like Joe said, that the water is a problem around there. There's wetlands. And so we've got leaching systems working with wetlands that we're trying to simultaneously protect. And we're going to have to update these systems, and we're going to keep driving these leaching systems up against the wetlands while the water table is becoming an increased problem, while weather becomes more and more extreme. So it really feels like the best time to go for this, I think, if I'm just being frank. And I think there are ways we could mitigate the cost somewhat with looking at those depths and things like that. And I do know that the connection on Southport Terrace is short. Like, it was supposed to come right up to the intersection so that we could tee off of it on Carriage Drive, but it ends like 100 or 175 feet short down Southport Terrace. So I don't know. It just feels like at the very least that line should have been put in to an appropriate place where we could have had a conversation where it was already sort of there to connect with. So I don't know. I really hope we can work something out. That's all. You know, we're really interested in doing it.
Thanks, Tim. Joe?
Mark,
Yes, sir.
is that directed to me?
Yeah, I thought you had a question.
I do. Thank you for anticipating it. This
Yes.
is through you, Mark, to Chris Rogers. Chris, you've seen the plans. The Tolman proposal, is that the right depth? I mean, I don't want the homeowners to have to pump, which is quite expensive. And Tim just talked about going a little shallow. What is the right solution from an engineering point of view? And if we have Matt on the phone, I direct that to him also.
This would be, it would be a question for Chris DeAngelis as well. What they need to do, this is only a conceptual plan that's been proposed.
Right.
They would need to do some elevations and confirm that the property at the end of the road will be able to flow gravity into the sewer. So there's still a little bit more that needs to be done on this. But I think Chris DeAngelis, correct me if I'm wrong, but you went with the deeper part so that you could confirm that it would flow gravity.
Right.
That's my interpretation of it. But, you know, we would need to do some final elevations from each property to make sure that it would be able to flow by gravity.
Okay, and that, Chris, that would include the homeowner that does not, at the end, that does not want to hook in, right? Eventually, if he wanted to, he'd be accommodated.
This new plan would flow by that property. So yeah, it would tie into Mill Hill Terrace, and it would tie in. They would be able to tie into it.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to leave him high and dry just because he's not making a decision today.
Right.
So to the homeowners, this is kind of new and novel to us, and we don't think that we haven't seen a situation like this before, at least in the last 10 years. I suspect we'll see more of them. I live up on Hillside, and we would love to have sewers be able to connect in as well, and I think that there will be a greater appetite for it. The issue is as you're coming to realize is it's quite expensive to put pipes in the ground, and we don't even know what the lateral is going to be. So at some point in time, I think that before we do more engineering work and maybe deploy some creativity into this, one of the concerns of the commission was, you know, what is the appetite to take on this level of expense? And that's why we asked for the homeowners to be with us tonight. You know, it looks to me like it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of at least $40,000 per home. And we might be able.
Greg Chioda. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. This is Greg Chioda. I'm the homeowner at 169 Carriage Drive, all the way in the dead end. And so I think you hit the exact spot. And I think pretty much everybody on our street, aside from the first house who just put in, you know, God bless them, a ton of money for it to fix his septic. So everyone else on the street is generally in the same situation of having an aging septic system that is most likely going to need to be replaced in the next, depending on the house, probably anywhere from the next 5 to 7 years. And so when you look at the cost the homeowners are willing to bear, you know, I think everyone agrees we would all love to be on septic, and it seems like the town would like this to be on septic as well, given the wetlands and the water flow. And, you know, we talked about, you know, Heather Ridge, and, you know, originally that Heather Ridge was not supposed to have any pools when it was built, and it was because of the drainage and the water flow. But lo and behold, it gets built and everybody has a pool now. And I'm not sure where the disconnect with the town was. Granted, you know, the zoning for that was probably granted in 2004 or 5. And Joe might remember, I think it's at least that long. So it's, you know, certainly many, many people's seats ago that you're sitting in. And we're not quite sure how we got to that spot. But when you look at, you know, how much we're willing to bear, I think it's got to be less than what it is to replace my entire septic system and start brand new, which is generally anywhere between $30,000 and $40,000. So if the choice is spend 40 or 50 to be on septic, or spend 30 to just or to be on sewer, or spend 30 to redo my septic system, I'm going to redo my septic system for 30 grand, and that will last me 25 to 40 years, as opposed to paying 130% more to have the privilege of giving the town the sewer system that we built. And paid for.
What do you mean by built and paid for?
Because if we're looking at splitting the total cost between the 5 or 6 people that would be involved, it's very onerous. And I don't think, when you talk about, we are all committed to doing this, but there is a top level, I don't think anyone's going to write a $50,000 or $60,000 check to go on the sewer system when you can fix your septic for 30 years for half the cost. So it's got to be an economic benefit to both of us, is what I'm trying to say. Is hopefully there's some agreement where there can be some sharing to make it reasonable and and economically rational to pick this over replacing our septic.
And when you speak of sharing, do we know how many of the homes are a firm commitment? That will sign a legal document that if they're either going to pay for it up front or they'll pay for it over time. If they sell their home, there's a lien in place. Do we know what the denominator number is? Is it 6? Is it 8? Is it 4?
I think it's hard to say that without the total. I know it's chicken or the egg for sure. But to Joe's point, or I'm sorry, to Greg's point, it's I think sort of there's a greater good issue here of like, if this was a new neighborhood, if this was another circumstance, if they hadn't paved the road already and it was more intuitive to do it, then it would be more of a no-brainer. But since it isn't, it's a little bit of an ask, but 20 years from now, it makes total sense. And
well, I mean, Tim, we're kind of having this conversation every month, and if the number's 4, and even if you were able to cut the Tallman bill in half, and that doesn't include the lateral, that's going to be a no-go for the 4. So we should say that it's just not going to work, and acknowledge that. If the number is 6 or 8, and we can start to look at engineering options and financing options, then I think we as a commission are prepared to go down that road. But realistically,
if houses on the street, 6 houses on the street, so that the max is 6, and then minus 1 for the corner spot who just redid a septic, and so we're down to 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the $30,000 number, just as a guess, I'm not trying to commit anybody.
150.
You're at 150, so I guess you're 100 short based on the quote, even if you can knock off some money.
Well, that doesn't include the laterals.
I guess my question is there any portion of this the town should kick in?
Well, I think that it's a fundamental question. Recognize that about 70% of the town is on sewer. 30% of the town is not. And as I mentioned, I have great empathy. I would love to be on the sewer system, but I don't think the sewer users are prepared to pay for me to get onto the system. I think they're happy if I join, but they're not going to lay pipe for me.
Yeah, and again, just to reiterate some of the comments from Greg is, we had, and I guess shame on our association for not having this documented when the development went in across the street. I mean, that development is literally right here, right? You could reach out and touch these homes. And the fact that there's now 18 homes and 9 pools and counting, it is a major problem. The sewer line did not come down and demarc at Carriage Drive, right?
Where it was supposed to, and was approved.
So it fell short there, and there's some major issues in how we've gone about granting these properties and really engineering and figuring out what the water table is. I mean, it's a major problem. It's a major environmental problem, and all the studies that went on across the street back 15 years ago, when we were, at our infant stages with that development. And so again, I'm not pointing blame. What I'm trying to do is, for the committee, it's not just a nice to have, to be honest with you, Mark, and with all due respect, it's something that I think it's very necessary, and you can, there's other developments in this area as well that are going in, right?
Yeah,
and
that are pending.
and the alternate high school, which is a stone's throw away. So these are all major impacts to what's going on in this neighborhood and the environment in this neighborhood. So I guess what we're saying, and Tim is the voice of reason, is, is there an opportunity for us to work with the town? And we're certainly not asking for the town to just do this, and we need to put some skin in the game. And I think we're all willing, all five of us are willing to put a decent amount of skin in the game to get this done, because we know that, really sewer is the answer. I had Bill Jr. and Sons come out, and he says, look, if you have an opportunity to connect, and here's a guy that's servicing my septic. He said, yes, connect. You want to connect. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So,
how about from the rest of the commission? Comments, questions?
Well, my feeling. I think the town does have a responsibility to provide infrastructure for people. And certainly over the years, after the initial investment, we will get some of the money back through usage. So from my point of view, I would not, the purpose of what I wanted to hear tonight is we do have 5 of the 6 willing neighbors willing to put up some capital. And I believe the town should also put up some capital towards the installation of the pipe.
Okay.
And then the lateral will come when each homeowner's septic starts to fail them. That's my feeling.
Okay, that's helpful. Nancy? I can't see you.
Sorry, I was just
asking.
I was just unmuting myself. I think Joe just articulated well a position I agree with, actually.
Okay.
Mark, this is Christian. I know that we've seen other examples. One off the top of my head is the Fairfield Country Club just recently put in a pipe up Sasko Hill Road.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't, off the top of my head, I don't remember. I believe that they paid for that privately. And the other instances that we've had over the past 8 or 9 years have been small instances. But I don't remember a situation where we've actually been asked to put some skin in the game, so to speak. So something I'm not opposed to, but every other situation that I can remember in my 9 or 10 years on the committee has been a homeowner that has said, I'm going to pay for the pipe and I'll pay for the connection fees for my neighbors because I want the sewer.
Mm.
Obviously a little bit different situation here, but just to give the neighborhood some background on what we've seen in the past, and a little bit of a some background into the situations we have seen in terms of adding additional sewer lines in Fairfield.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I didn't have much background other than what Christian just gave. I mean, in theory, I agree with Joe and Nancy in terms of, and what you had said. I mean, I would love to be on the sewer system versus septic myself. And I think it's a long-term benefit to the city or to the town to have more folks in it. Other than what Christian had just said, I don't have enough background in terms of what the town has done in terms of putting skin in the game on case-by-case basis. So I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I just don't know what kind of either precedent has already been set or what kind of precedent we're willing to set. So.
Gotcha. Thanks, Matt.
Sort of agree with Chris that, yeah, we haven't done this in the past, and I'm afraid that we might set a new precedent by doing this. I think we have to look at more of the numbers and look at the quote a little bit more closely. We haven't done this before. Everyone else has, put in their own lines. This would be a very new thing, and I think we have to just, discuss it more amongst ourselves whether we want to do this.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm gonna propose that we I'll look for volunteers, or maybe join myself with Chris to work with one or two or all the homeowners to come up with some creative options. I think we need to focus a bit more on the numbers and come up with some creative solutions that perhaps deploy some of the town's assets and our ability to borrow money relatively inexpensively. I touched on there's a legal component to this as well, but we'll let the town attorney figure out how we address that in terms of if we were to go forward, what sort of assessment, what that might look like. But I think that would be the logical next step if you all agree.
One more comment I just want to make on it is I agree with the homeowner who said it does not make sense to put more money into it than the cost of a new septic. I mean, I can't disagree with that from an economics standpoint. And so it would make sense that we would try to make it work where the homeowners paying basically what they would for a new septic tie into the sewer system and not more than that.
Okay. Okay, Chris Rogers, if it's okay with you, we'll coordinate with you on the next step.
Sure. Yep, no problem.
Okay. I want to thank the homeowners for joining us tonight. Okay.
Thanks for the audience, guys.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you, Aaron.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay, I see our friend Mr. Cinto has joined us. Yes.
Going, guys.
We modified the agenda. Did we move just part A of old business forward?
My motion was just for Part A, Mr. Chair, but
Okay.
I could make another motion if you would like.
I think Team Cinto might appreciate that.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to move old business part of subsection B to consider and act on a request by Perella Engineering representing RD Cinto to line the 20 sewer main at 185 Thorpe Street to current agenda.
There a second? Second from...
Wait, I'll second again. I'll second again.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, so this is to consider an act on the request. This was in front of us in December. And from looking at my notes, the open issues were the aspects of the pipe guarantee and what constitutes a default. So do we have a bit more color on that? Or, I'll let you go ahead with your presentation, and I'm sure we'll get to those 2 points.
Sure. Happy New Year, everyone. I really don't have anything else to present at this point. I thought we went through everything, and I thought the ball was in the town's court at this point, as far as commenting on what we had proposed last time.
Mm-hmm.
Does the department have a view on this?
Bill, you want me to go, or you want to go, or? Hold on. Bill,
Sorry, you can start.
Bill is muted. Nope, he's there.
You
there?
can start if you want, Chris, or I can go, whatever you want.
Okay, so we had a discussion today on it, and I believe the last meeting we left it with the developer to go back and get a guarantee of how long this lining would last. I don't know if that's been done or not, but Bill and I had a discussion this morning on this. This is a tough call. We reviewed the camera footage. It's very hard to see and depict what is actually going on with the pipe because the pipe is full. It's surcharged. I mean, there's a couple options we could do. Option one is we go and line the pipe. Option two is to replace the pipe. Option three would be to line the pipe with a clause or something saying that if the pipe was to fail or has a dip in it, it would need to be replaced. The only way to know, and this was part of what we discussed, is the only way to figure out if this pipe has a dip in it is to bypass pump and then recamera the line because of the flow in it. This takes about 30% of the town's flow. So, it's very hard to figure out, exactly what's going on there. One of the thoughts was maybe when they do the doghouse manhole, when they bypass pump for that, we can go back in and reinvestigate this pipe. I don't know if that's too late at the time. It's a thought that could possibly be done. I don't know.
Joe, do you have a cost on what it is to line the pipe?
I do, if you don't mind, just for a minute.
Sure.
And everything you guys have said is right. The cost to reline the pipes, like, call it $50,000, right? And there is a dip, and we don't know where that dip is. That dip might be on my property. More than likely, that dip's on my property that I'm redoing anyways before we get to the town's property. More than likely, right? I think that relining, what's happening now is working, and relining the pipe make it that much stronger. I don't want to divert the line because I think that's a waste of money. At the end of the day, our contract with you guys is that our contribution towards this is $100,000. Doing our pipe work on our property is over $1 million. I mean, I think for the town, our best case is to say we'll reline the pipe and hope everything stays the way it's going now. Relining the pipe is just going to make it that much stronger. And if it doesn't work, then we'll contribute the other half of whatever we were going to spend towards rerunning that line, if that makes sense to you
guys.
I'm sorry, what was the cost? I didn't hear what the cost was. It broke up.
So, I don't know what the cost is to replace the line from our property through the wetlands for the town's property.
To line it, yeah.
I believe through our approval through you guys, we would donate up to $100,000 to do that, which we're more than willing to do now. To revert the line on our property, it's over $1 million. Does that make sense? I'm paying that money.
What are you doing on your property with the line?
Right now, the line goes through the building, so we are going to put in a new line that goes around the building and ties back into your line. The cost of that, we have several different prices of it, and the cost of that's over $1 million.
Wow.
So I don't know what it is to go through the swamp, the town's property. I know that we're going to contribute up to $100,000 to do that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot more than that $100,000, obviously. I think the best option for the town, for the environment, for the wetlands, is to have us reline that pipe which is currently working now.
Depends on your definition of working. It's carrying flow, you're correct, but the line is completely surcharged. It's always almost full. So there's something wrong either with a dip or an elevation. Whether it's on your property or within the wetlands, we don't know. And I think that goes back to Chris's point, is that if you do that doghouse manhole and we bypass that line, we get in, we camera that line, maybe, that'll give us more indication. And the other thing is if it's on your property and you go ahead and do all your work, and that alleviates the problem, then we know it was on, like you said, on your property. We don't know exactly where the problem lies.
I agree with that. Sure. Absolutely.
Either way, you have to bypass pump to put the liner in. So at that point, I think it might be beneficial that we go in and we investigate the pipe. You'd have to set up a bypass to pump through over the wetlands. We can investigate the pipe and then come back and reconvene. That's the only thought that I have.
To Rob's point, I understand if we lined it for the $50,000 and everything works, that's all good and well. We all look good. If it doesn't work, now basically we wasted that $50,000, and now we're only going to get, the town's only going to get $50,000 now to do the improvement of that pipe.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's so much an economic issue. If a pipe carrying 30% of the town's flow needs to be replaced, I think we as a commission need to look at that, and it's on us to replace it. It sounds like we just don't know, and I think I'm probably speaking on behalf of a few of the commission members that we're not well versed in this technology. We're not engineers. And we sense a disconnect between the developer.
Some of us are, Mark.
Yes. Yeah. What am I? Hey, Matt, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think that the CCTV inspection was inconclusive. Bypassing re-inspecting is absolutely the route that I would go. Last time I was willing to entertain doing the lining with a guarantee, as long as we defined what guarantee meant and if it failed. But now, this is the first time, and maybe it was explained last time and I just missed it. If the cap is 100,000 and lining it's 50, and so if it fails, there's only another 50,000 to make the repair, then I would absolutely suggest just doing the bypass, inspecting a clean, empty line where you can actually see all the defects. At that point, you can make a clear-cut decision in terms of whether or not the line will work or whether or not the pipe has a sag and needs to be replaced, either in full or a point repair.
Mark, this is Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Can I just get a clarification? I remember when we approved the original Cinto project of the 58 condominiums, and that was the 100,000 I think that was committed to. When we wasn't there a different commitment when the 140 unit building was going to be built? Does anybody know the answer to that? I apologize. I didn't go back to our minutes, the approval the second time.
The first approval was the 100,000. The second approval was the developer was going to replace the line.
Right. Okay. That's what I thought for the second approval. And we're talking. This is the line we're talking about, right? Because now I'm getting confused between the line on Rob's property and the line that's in the wetlands. That was the wetlands line we were talking about, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
So it feels like we're landing on bypass and scope it.
It feels like, yeah. Who? Yeah, no problem.
Like this is another topical issue in town. Those of us who were on the December 16th presentations heard a lot about lining pipes. This isn't a new or novel idea. Technology is established. I think that we need a bit more information. And Joe, do you have anything you want to say on that?
No, this is.
No, Joe Pereira.
Oh, Joe Pereira. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
I don't, Mark.
Okay, I'm just trying to read the audience. It's just a little tricky. Okay.
This is Quinn. I'm in favor of doing the bypass and recammering it to see if we can see where the problem is.
I guess my only question at this point is, if we do our sewer work to the dog manhole, in an effort to line the pipe, we're going to have to do the bypass anyways, correct? So at that point, we'd be doing the bypass? Is that what you guys are suggesting?
So, I mean, in terms of, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I was going to, so I don't know in terms of construction means and methods. I mean, if you hired someone to do the lining and then told them to go home because we saw a collapsed pipe or something that would prevent us from doing the lining, I don't know if you have to pay for mobilization for all the lining equipment and all that type of stuff, or, I mean, theoretically, yes. If you hire somebody to do the lining, do the bypass ahead of time, and you don't run into any issues, then absolutely that same day you can start lining and get it all done. But on the flip side of that, if the bypass followed by the pre-inspection shows that you won't be able to line it, I just don't know what happens as far as contractor fees, costs, all that kind of stuff.
No, that wasn't really my question, but yeah.
Okay.
You know, my question more or less is that, like, we're going to run our pipe, we're going to put the dog hole manhole, and if there's a fee associated with me having to run the liner, and you guys, I mean, yeah, that's going to be. What do you think? What do you guys think the cost is for the bypass?
Should just do like the inspection, like just do a bypass and do an inspection.
Yes.
I mean, considerably cheaper than lining it. I know that.
You probably need about 3 pumps plus a reserve for the to handle that flow. So
right.
Yeah, that's a pretty elaborate.
Yeah, that is like
bypass pumping system.
Really kind of, you know, getting to the point of being.
Theoretically, you would have to set your doghouse manhole first and then pump out of that doghouse manhole. So,
yeah, I understand.
You know.
And then how much pipe do we have to run? Where would be the next? What was that, 180 feet of pipe we'd have to run the next manhole?
I don't know. I don't have the plan in front of me, but I think I want to say it's 230 feet.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I don't think you're getting that much cheaper than lining the pipe at this point, you know?
Well, you have to do that exact same thing to line the pipe too. So I mean, I understand you're doubling up then. You have to do it twice. So if you're not lining at the same time, but you have to run that same bypass to line the pipe. So you have to pay for the liner plus the bypass pumping when you're actually lining the pipe.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I could also, there's other options, don't you think?
Yeah, I think if you're going to bypass, I wouldn't want to put in the the doghouse manhole and then have a a pipelining contractor sitting there waiting, right? I think if you're going to do it, I think you almost want to bypass pump and check it before you commit to all of that. The risk is, what is that going to?
Joe, how long? I mean, like, just theoretically speaking, I could also get a holding tank, hold whatever was pumping, and then let that flow afterwards after the liner.
Not with that flow there.
I don't think so. Not with that one, Rob. I think what it really involves is renting diesel-powered Godwin pumps, and you'll have suction in the manhole, whether that's 1, 2, or 3 pumps, and running lawn discharge pipes to the next manhole. I think that's what the commission's saying, right?
Can I get back to how we started this conversation?
Yeah, I think that would be worthwhile.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. A guarantee on the liner and the flow. Does the town have any thoughts, Bill or Chris? You guys have any thoughts on that? Let's say theoretically that I have to replace this pipe, or let's say that I have to replace this pipe. Could we look at and put a guarantee and a timeline on me running a liner through this pipe and how long that liner would have to last?
I have no idea how long the liner, what the life of the liner is. I don't know.
So what would the town be happy with? I mean, structurally, I think we all know that the liner is just as sound as anything else you're going to put in the ground right now. And you're not going to be going into wetlands and disturbing wetlands and everything else associated with it. And you're going to keep this project at a cost that is manageable to go forward.
A typical estimated useful life we throw in for liners at a planning level is 30 years. That's the I mean, obviously there's a ton of different factors, but that's the number that I always use as far as an estimated useful life in planning.
Okay, 30 years.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is Joe D.
Sir.
I know we have the liner discussion, but it seems, and I'm not the engineer, it seems the issue is no longer the liner, but some kind of a potential dip in the pipe that could cause a problem. And the way I'm hearing it, at least, and maybe I'm wrong, is if we line the pipe, the dip still remains potentially, because everybody who's seen the flow has seen it, the camera go up and down in the water. That's my understanding from a layman's point of view. So I'm not sure that the liner is the issue anymore.
Does either Matt or Joe want to weigh in on that? I mean, I heard things such as increased velocity last month from lining the pipe. You know, again, many of us are at a loss to understand the technical aspects.
The liner will increase velocity. The liner will increase velocity. I guess the biggest understanding that we need to figure out is if there is a dip in the pipe, which we can't confirm right now because of the flow. There's too much flow in that pipe. So the only way to figure out if there's if there is a dip in the pipe is to remove the flow by, using bypass pumping. And then we can go back in and CCTV the line and confirm if there is something going on in that line. At this point, it's undecisive. We don't really have an understanding of what's going on in there. The thought is that maybe over time the pipe settled in the marsh through the wetland area. We can't confirm that. I think at this point the only alternative is to bypass pump and go back in and re-CCTV that pipe to confirm what's going on.
Yeah, and I know I may be alone on this, but I think that's something that is a town responsibility, as it is with the Metro Center, and not a developer's responsibility.
Mr. Chairman, through you, you're not alone in that thought.
Okay. I think if every future development comes in and we're putting developers responsible for the town's infrastructure or assessing the town's infrastructure, I think that's a bad precedent to set.
And I agree with you and wanted just to echo that for what it's worth.
If that seems to be consensus or the majority feeling, then it would be incumbent upon us to figure out how to assess the structure of that pipe and do it in a manner that would be do it in a timely manner so that the developer in this case can make the decisions that need to be made.
Yeah, this is Joe D. It seems to me the answer is the first bypass that has to be done is paid for by the commission, and we determine whether there's a dip in that pipe. Once that's determined, then we have better data to figure out what we do with the Cinto commitment to lining or replacing.
Does that process sort of impact the timeline? Is there a world in which, if that's what we agree on, that, and I don't know if this is the right process or language, but I'm trying to, because I know sometimes these town procedures, it can take a long time and perhaps interfere with the timeline and progress. And so I don't want to get in the way either of the developer. Is there a world in which we compromise where the developer pays for something and then we would pay it back if we all agree that it's on the town is on the hook? I'm just trying to figure out a way forward so that we're not delayed and caught under sort of the government timeline as opposed to a private sector timeline.
That's helpful, Nancy. Yeah, I mean, we've been kicking this back and forth for months.
Yeah, I just feel like in the name of progress, how do we come up with a creative solution so that we're not having this conversation on next month's agenda? No offense. Sorry, Rob, you're on mute. You're still wonky.
I think he said I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. So again, I just think maybe that's something to talk about. I don't know if there's a motion to be made. I don't know, Chris and Bill, like, is this something we need to then go back, like who the people at the town level we need to talk to? Is it the two of you? Do we need to, I don't know what the process is, but I just feel like it's time to make a next step, an action plan, if you will.
Well, I think if we do it on the town end, I think you're absolutely right. We have to go out, we have to put an RFP out, we have to get a bid, we have to, this has to go through the whole purchasing department, and we have to get, a bid, because it's going to be, tens of thousands of dollars. It's not going to be, a few $1,000s.
Right.
So again, would say, is there a world in which we could, not the beg for forgiveness model, but almost kind of come up with some agreement where the developer, in this case, Rob, sort of goes forward, and then we find a way to bill the town as part of the job? I don't know. I don't know if there's any precedent for this, but again, what you just described, Bill, is like makes me itchy. It's so much. But again, I'm not trying to thwart what town. It's not trying to be sneaky. It's trying to be productive and move the project forward.
Nancy, I think it's absolutely consistent with the tone and tenor of the conversation thus far, that we've asked the developer to. We were going along the lines of the developer lining this pipe. We're now expressing reservations that there may be integrity issues with the pipe. So we're asking the developer to make that assessment for us. And I think in the interest of moving this forward, we would ask Mr. Cinto to go forward and make that assessment, and the cost of which would be applied against the $100,000.
I like that. Is there's a formal motion to be made? I'm happy to do it, but I don't mean to cut this short. I just, again, feel like we've spent a lot of time talking.
Rob, how do you feel about that?
If what you just said is the case, then yes, I think that's the quickest and best way to move forward.
Okay. All right.
But Joe is the master drafter of these
Yeah.
motions, so I don't even want to pretend that I would put it in language that's
No.
remotely WPCA appropriate.
We're hoping that Joe's processing that right now.
I am processing. Okay. This is just gonna be thrown out there. We're gonna have to mess it. I'd like to make a motion. Well, the problem I've got is I can't put that 100,000 in because that 100,000 is not what the last thing we approved. That's what I had asked Chris Rogers, and I thought it was replacing the pipe the last time we did it. But I'm going to start with, I'd like to make a motion to propose that R.D. Cinto investigates the integrity of the pipe by paying for a bypass, at which time the pipe can be recamered, and if it appears there's a dip in the line, I believe R.D. Cinto is responsible to replace the pipe less the cost of the initial bypass. If there is no dip in the pipe, I would propose that a liner be installed in the pipe up to $100,000 paid by Cinto less the initial bypass cost.
Was that an official motion?
I made the motion. I started.
I will
I'd like to
second
make
it.
a-
I was following it. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Well, did everybody follow
Oh,
it?
sorry. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the only thing I would want to see the results of the CCTV video before concrete deciding on, I mean, who knows what's in the pipe? So let's actually see the video and then determine the recommended repair or replacement.
But isn't that implied with the motion, the way it's worded, that we would have?
I guess so. I just,
Yeah.
I didn't like the dip. If we see a dip in the pipe, then we
Yeah,
replace.
let me try to reword that a little bit and say if there is an issue with the pipe as determined by the town officials responsible, and then pick it up with the rest of that statement.
Yeah,
Meaning
I'm
I'm
in support of that.
right up.
All right. So I'll second the motion as amended.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, I just want to hear from the town, from Bill, from Chris, just to make sure that that's language that you can get your head around just from a town perspective, because I don't want you to leave feeling railroaded, and I want you to leave feeling also productive, as you know, from this should be working for both sides. I feel like the developer needs to feel good, and we should feel good, in, to the best of our ability.
I think it's a good idea. I've never dealt with this at this town before, where we've put a precedent, on an inspection, and then it's either the town's problem or the contractor's problem. So this would be the first time that I've ever done anything like this, but it does sound like
Some of us call that progress.
Yes, I understand.
Chris?
Chairman, I have a question for you.
Yeah, no, I agree. The only thing I would put in there, and I think it was mentioned as well, that the town would want to review the footage and camera footage prior to any decision that was made.
Yeah, I think Chris, I think my statement that the town officials have to make the determination covers you.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the motion. I think we're in the middle of.
Yeah, that's the one that's on the
amended
floor
motion
right now.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's on the table. Right.
Right.
Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
So what are the limits here that we're bypassing? Are we going from the existing manhole on the site down to the next manhole downstream of where the doghouse is going in? Is that the limit?
Here's my thought, and you're the engineer on it, but I think you need to install the doghouse manhole first, which would limit the amount of bypass pumping that you would have to do. I don't know if that's possible based on your construction, but I think feasibly, I think that would be the best scenario is put the doghouse manhole in, and then we can pump from there. It would eliminate, probably, I would say at least 150 feet of pumping.
I want to think about that, please.
Yeah. I think we can sit down after, and figure out, conceptually how we're going to do this.
Yeah, we're going to have to, because we don't want to speculate all that work to find out, that might be cost prohibitive to run the pipe through, I mean.
All right. Well, I think the motion's still appropriate.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Glenn, aye.
Okay. Looks to be unanimous. All right.
Thank you all. I have to respectfully, I'm sorry, another town committee meeting. I can jump back on. I just have to log on to that meeting, so I'm going to disappear for a minute. Thank you all for your time.
Very helpful being here.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll be back. I don't mean to be rude. I just have to go jump into this.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Joe, Rob. Okay.
Take care, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So we're back to new business.
Right.
Item A, request for additional funding for the microgrid project.
Yes. So I can relay on this a little bit. Ty and Bond had given us a proposal to resume the microgrid project with testing in the areas that need to be excavated. Their proposal is $15,500. We also have a proposal from Holzner for $77,980 to do this work, remediate, dispose of the soil that needs to be removed. There's also a potential for more testing that's going to need to be done on this. So we're requesting $115,000 to get this testing and the site work done for the microgrid project.
Chris, I don't know much about soil testing except it's exceptionally expensive. Does this give us any sort of exemption of that area for when and if we do plant work?
No.
Right.
Bill would be able to weigh in on that. Yeah.
No.
We get to do it again.
Basically, the soil testing isn't expensive. It's the remediation.
Yeah.
And disposal. Yeah.
It's the remediation that's the expense. Basically what they're doing is just remediating the trench that they're doing and laying, their conduit in.
And how do we know if they haven't tested it yet that it's going to be so expensive to remove it?
This has been tested.
Oh, okay.
It has been tested. Yeah.
This is the remediation plan.
So what their proposal is, and I was just trying to find it, but I believe it's 0 to 3 feet is the cost of the $15,500. If they do come across contaminated material, they have to go back in and retest to a deeper elevation, which is going to add more cost to it. So, upon talking to Laura Pooley and Bill, we came up with the assumption that, 115,000 would be enough to cover the additional cost. Now, we do have a grant on this as well. Bill, what was it, 21,000?
Correct.
I believe left.
Yeah, a little bit
so
more
we
than
have,
21,000.
Yeah, 21,000 that we're going to use first, but we just want to add a little more into it just to make sure that we have enough to cover it. So.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair? What was the two questions actually? The microgrid project only relates to the plant, or does it relate to the fire training station, the conservation house, the dog place, or is it just for us?
No, it relates to all of those properties you just alluded to.
Here's my problem. This was a project in 2015 that was going to be split between us and the town. And then all of a sudden they backed off and said, you guys pick it up. We voted on it because it wasn't that much money at the beginning, but the grants and everything that were in it.
Mm-hmm.
This has become a runaway train. Yeah. And my feeling is, I think we should go back to the town and ask them for their half of it back. I'm sorry, Nancy got off the phone, but this is not our project, and I feel I've got a responsibility to the ratepayers of the sewer system that they should not be supporting town projects. My feeling.
Yeah.
I just want to add a little more to that. But in February, and I did a little research before, February 26, 2020, we did a change order for $28,872.
Yeah, and I had the same comment.
Right. So,
if you look at my motion that day, it was turned down, and then we made a second motion behind it to keep the project going.
Correct. I did see that.
I looked up the same thing.
Okay.
So my view is it's 115,000. If the town pays for half, that's roughly 57,000, of which 70% of that town are also sewer owners. So it's really 30% of 57,000, or it's about $18,000 for those of us who are not on the sewer that would participate in that.
Right.
And I think in the interest of moving this forward, I would be in lean in the direction of let's pay for it.
I just have one question.
Please.
The number of 115,000. I see the two documents that you shared, one from Holzner and one from
Time bond.
Yeah. Right. If I look just roughly at the two of them, that's 93,000. The 15. Or am I missing something at the bottom there?
No,
so
you're
15,
correct.
No.
15, and then 78. So that's 93. Yeah. So where are we getting the additional 25 or $22,000?
There's potential for more testing that needs to be done.
All right. So we're making an estimate that extra $22,000 would be enough to take care of that additional testing if necessary.
Right, and we have a $21,000 grant still remaining, so it's roughly about $42,000 that we would have remaining.
Well, Chris, I'm sorry, Chris, but you're double counting the grant. When we made our initial approval of this project, we counted the grant in. I know you have it left. It's just a question of you spent that in one pocket.
Right, we still have to use it. Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
You haven't used it.
Yeah.
No, that's obviously we're going to use that up first. So
we're going to use that first, right? Yes.
And again, like Chris said, our trench right now we're looking at is 3 feet deep by 4 feet wide. Now, if tests come back once we dig down that deep, and they're elevated levels, that 3-foot depth may go to 5, may go to 6, may go to 8. You know.
Yeah, and the
So-
number will then increase exponentially.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I guess the question, or we'll be here all night, is how do we move this along in an efficient process while protecting our downside if this number goes from 100 to 500,000? And when we say have a conversation with the town, what would that process be? I mean, we have a head of public works who we haven't met yet. Is he plugged into this level of detail?
Yes, I believe so. I think he's aware. I think, as Joe said, if Nancy rejoins the call, I think that's where we start to see what the pulse of the town is about helping out with this project. I mean, I forgot how much was the grant, Chris, 2-point-something million?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look back.
And we
But
have,
yeah, I think it was 2.5 million.
we have like 60 to 70% of the work already done.
Okay. What
there's
happens
one-
if we don't make a decision on this tonight? Does it delay the
Yes.
Yeah.
It would. Wasn't Laura looking for this one? Chris? Bill? I mean, I sit
Sorry,
in-
I didn't hear you.
I sit in on those meetings. I thought she needed this. This was one of them. There were 2 that you needed immediately.
We do need to get it started. Yes, and I don't know when the grant expires. That's the only thing I didn't get.
Yeah,
I was waiting for
this has
a
some
reply.
criticality.
There's some timeline with it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know what the timeline is as far as when that grant expires.
All right. Any suggestions?
One question on the Olsner proposal. Has anybody vetted or gotten any kind of second quotes for the disposal costs at $240 per ton? I mean, that's obviously the biggest unit cost in this whole thing. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that it's still going to be a pretty high cost, I'd imagine. But
Yeah.
I'm just curious if shopping it around, if disposal could be 220 or something instead, or 200.
Matt, I think the thought process there was, Holzer's on site. They've already got all of the things established. If you bring another contract in, you got mobilization, demobilization. You have all the other costs associated with that.
Even through Holzner, even asking them if they can sharpen the pencil, bring it to a different disposal facility, any of that type. I mean, a lot of it's, my understanding is for the disposal costs, it's typically based on wherever they're bringing it. So if they ask around, maybe they could do a little better.
We could certainly ask them. My understanding is that they've vetted a lot of different things for the material that's already on site that they're getting rid of.
Okay.
And it's the only place that they found that I know of, from my understanding from all the meetings, is a place in Michigan that's accepting it. There's not many places around that is accepting this level of PCB contamination.
Okay.
Mark, maybe we could just delay this discussion until Nancy gets back on the phone, move on to B, and then come back to this.
I'm sensitive to, also Dennis being on the line tonight, and I'd like to get to some of his projects.
Yeah. So let's do that if everybody's in agreement.
Okay. Excellent suggestion. Item B, request for additional funding to install the gas line for the generator project.
We've gotten a cost proposal from Southern Connecticut Gas to run the gas line from the main entrance on One Rod Highway to the inflow building, and the cost is $35,191 that they're requiring to put this new gas line in. So this is impacting the generator because we need to upgrade that line in order to have that generator function.
So okay, Chris, what about disposal of those soils?
Those soils were tested. Bill, I don't know what the results. Did we get the results from those?
I think we did. I think everything there, Dennis, in that trench was okay.
Wow, you're lucky. That's good. That's great.
I haven't heard anything contrary from Laura to that it wasn't.
Yeah, but
Why is it always that other utilities it's okay, and when it comes to the sewer, you pay out the nose?
Dennis,
You read my
I think
mind.
the situation, Dennis, the situation there is if they've removed it and they can't put it back after it's tested, they're just putting it in a general pile with the hardening project, and they're going to take all that away. So we're paying for it in a different way, I think.
Yeah,
whenever they run
sounds
into
about
something, whatever they're running into, they're just putting it aside, and then they're going to move it all out at one time. But the bigger project is covering it.
Yeah, I know Laura has gone back to the gas company to tell them to try to get them to reevaluate this number. I don't know if she's heard anything back because this was not an expected expenditure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make a motion at some point when we're ready.
Please.
I'd like to make a motion to provide additional funding to install the gas line for the generator project at the WTP plant. Change order for up to $35,195, not to exceed.
Second. Matt, all in favor?
Quinn, aye.
Quinn, Christian, Matt, Joe, and Mark. Thank you. Item C, discussion on the Affluent non-compliance event on January 8th.
Yes, we had a situation where there was some work done on the hardening project. We were on a loop system for our potable water, and due to the road reconstruction, we were placed on a dead end system until the road construction is done, where they can raise the line as they raise the potable water line as they raise the road. So we'll go back into a loop system. So when we were put onto that dead end system, where our return activated sludge building is after the fire academy. So unbeknownst to us, when Aquarium was flushing their hydrants at the fire academy, it dropped our pressure. So when it dropped our pressure, it dropped out our return pumps and our effluent pumps on seawater pressure. So we're scrambling, trying to figure this out. We're going to plug lines or something like that. And then we come to find out that Aquarium was flushing their hydrants. They had one hydrant up wide open at 1,300 gallons a minute. So once we found this out and they shut that one, our pressure came back. And when it came back, our effluent pumps went up to 100% and our flow shot up to 33 mgd. So that in turn lowered our dose on our UV system, which is a mathematical equation between its intensity and the flow. And we dipped below our requirement of a dose of 24, not less than 24 by our NPDES permit. We dipped down to 19.5, and our old permit was 19.1, we would have been fine. We were at 19.5 for 7 minutes and 21 seconds. So that became a violation, and I had to report it. Did it have any implication on us? No, because we at that point, just after that point, we took a fecal coliform and a Nedekaki, and both of them were ones, well under the state mandates. But because that number dipped for that 7 minutes and 21 seconds, I had to notify the state that there was a effluent permit violation. The water was still clean. It was just that water had built up in the chamber, and when those pumps came back on, the flow shot up. We've made we've taken alternative action if this happens again, where we can go on to plant water, or we can put the UV banks into 100%, or we can bring the pumps up slowly rather than, you know, being the first time those pumps shot right up on automatic to 100%. We can bring them up manually slowly so that the flow goes through slowly. It did happen again last Friday when the fire department was exercising all their pumpers. But we knew it was, so we went over, and Scott Beeson from the Fire Academy was gracious enough to shut everything down, and we were fine. Again, we've made other provisions too, so that we can just hook up our plant water system and not even worry about the potable water. So we have a bunch of different alternatives so that this does not happen again.
Bill, I appreciate that. Putting that in layman's terms, I could follow. Yeah. I tried to read the report. It didn't. Matt, probably made sense to Matt, but. Any questions or comments from the commission?
As part of the trying to prevent it from happening again, is there like did you guys ask about a communication protocol with either Aquarian or the fire department for exercising that, or?
We do have it with the Fire Academy right now. Okay. I have reached out to Aquarian. The first guy that I reached out to, Chris gave me his email, Al Hildred, I think. He retired, so they sent me to another gentleman who sent an email to another gentleman. And that other gentleman has not gotten back to me yet, so I will reach out again tomorrow. And if not, I will reach out to John Marsilio, who has a bunch of contacts at Aquarian, where he worked for several years. So we will get something done so that, you know, there will be some accountability by Aquarian just to let us know. Because when I went over there was no one from Aquarian, because simultaneously they had a water main break on Fairfield Beach Road. So I had to run over to Fairfield Beach Road, find the guy there. So, no, that guy just went back. So that's how we found out everything. It was almost like a perfect storm.
Good thing it was so close by.
It was.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks,
I guess one other question: Are there any other high pressure users outside of those two that could potentially provide a similar type of impact, or it's really just them?
No, not that I know of. I don't think Public Works would use that volume of water that would make the pressure dip that much. Okay. Denali, they have some hoses up there in case of fires, so I can reach out to Ryan up there too.
Great. Good dialogue. Thank you.
And like I said, once those road improvements are done, we'll return to that loop system so that we shouldn't have any issues.
Okay, item D, discussion on the RFP results from the interviews that took place on December 16th. Anybody want to give a quick update on that?
Yep. So we did an evaluation based on a matrix system. It's based on a point system. D&B engineers scored the highest out of all the four companies that were interviewed. So they, you know, we can go through the matrix system if we want, or, you know, based on, you know, the purchasing department basically vetted out the results on that. So,
yeah. There's also an audio recording if anyone wants to listen in on those. They were about 45 minutes each. Everything you ever wanted to know about lining a pipe. Okay. Next item is discussion to modify the approved WPCA meeting dates from the third Wednesday to the fourth Wednesday. I don't know. I kind of like the third Wednesday. What's the thought?
We don't keep it however it is. I apologize. It was a glitch that we didn't catch in time, but there's no impact on keeping that, you know, changing them. It was just a thought that I wanted to propose to the commission. So, Joe, go ahead. Sorry.
No, the only thought I have is I don't mind the third or the fourth. Either one works for me. But do we have an issue with the room we use if we ever get back to meeting together? I don't ever want to go back to the basement of ever.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Right?
does
The dungeon.
the third have some other group that's going to, that has precedent over us versus the fourth, which we seem to have had on our own?
That I don't know. I don't know.
That's my only concern.
Okay. Let's hope that becomes an issue. Is there any? What's a quick caucus amongst the commission members who are here? How would you feel about moving the meeting to 6:30?
Yeah.
I have no problem. This is Joe.
I'd prefer the 6:30. Just gets a little tough with.
You prefer 7? Okay.
Three
I'll only
kids at
bring it
home.
in. Yeah. No, that's fine. It's just that there's some often and 8
7
o'clock.
7 would be nice.
7's good. Okay.
I dig 7 more than 7:30, but any earlier would be a difficult
Okay.
push on my end.
I'm glad I asked. It's just sometimes there's this 8 o'clock meeting that gets conflicted. Let's stick with 7 and not change. Okay, so let's move on to the update on the current projects.
Give me 1 second. Okay, so Mill River Pump Station generator. The gas line was installed. I just found out today that we're still waiting for the gas company to install the meter. That's the only other component that's we're waiting on. Bill, you can confirm, I think, that all the electrical work inside the pump station has been done, right?
As far as I know, the last piece of the puzzle was the gas line, and the meter was too big to hang off the building, so they were waiting for a pad to be built. So I think Laura contacted the contractor that was going to put a pad on the next to the wall of the building to mount the gas meter.
So, all right, so that project is almost completed. The generator at the treatment plant, the new gas line, based on the approval tonight for the additional funding, they can go through and put the, install the new gas line. We're probably looking at a lead, a couple week lead time before that would happen, based on their scheduling and the environmental work that would need to be done over there. The treatment plant hardening project, they set pump station 1. It's been installed. The sheeting contractor has demobilized until the springtime. The ground improvements, and I believe they're going to start on pump station 2. Bill, have they started to excavate that?
Not yet, not as of today. That's on their 2-week look ahead. They were supposed to start on Monday, but I think it's been slipping. So.
Okay, all right.
I don't know. That's Earthworks. That's Earthworks, another sub to them. So I don't know. I haven't seen them on site, so I don't know if they've just not mobilized to go ahead and do that yet. But that's what their next thing. I think the biggest thing they're focusing on now is to get rid of all the soil that's up on top of that hill, so that they don't have to keep coming back through the winter and keeping the plastic over it.
Oh, for the winter? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think that's it. We'll have a better understanding on it. We have a meeting tomorrow on that. Every Thursday morning we have an update meeting. Eastern Turnpike Pump Station, the wet well was set on Friday, which is a big step. I think I sent pictures in the first set that you could see. It was a pretty significant process. So they had a crane and so forth. So the soil that was going to be reused on site will need to be replaced. So we're working with Ty and Bond on disposal of that, and then we're going to have to bring in new soil for that project. Sacred Heart doesn't want it to be reused on site. The valve vault has been excavated over there. It's down to, I think they probably have maybe another foot or 2 to go on it. Dennis, you might be able to confirm that, but I think they're pretty much at grade where they need to go with the valve vault.
Yes.
On that project. So which would be the second significant, portion of the project to take place over there. So,
and Dennis, correct us if I'm not wrong. A lot of that soil that is taken out was going to be replaced by crushed stone, right?
Yeah, there will be no additional cost for bringing clean material in, because they were planning to do that anyways. It's just getting rid of the polluted soil on the Sacred Heart property will be the additional cost.
Okay.
And actually, just so everybody knows, and not to muddy the waters, but the initial assessment on that material was that by Connecticut state regulations, it could be reused on site. But when Sacred Heart found out about it, they weren't happy, and they don't want it back on the site, even though the stuff that we didn't touch is the same soil. But whatever, it was a long process that we worked out together with Bill and myself, Chris, and John Marsilio.
Yeah, you guys have worked through a number of issues there. I give you a lot of credit.
Yeah, well, yeah, we got a major power feed that goes through the property.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
So-
our next hurdle, and that's going to be a little, significant time thing too, to get that conduit removed. So,
but I think that you guys will see, I think probably by the end of February, the site will be graded off, and they'll have poured the foundation for the building around that time, and it'll really start taking shape.
Okay.
Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No. So the force main portion of the project has been installed. It's totally, all the piping has been installed. It's been tested and confirmed. The paving is going to take place in the spring, so that's the last key component on that for that portion of the project. So, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and then I guess
Dennis, I don't know
sorry.
if you want to add anything. Yep.
Yeah, no, just one good thing to add on that project is that it'll be the final project price is going to be at or below the bid number, which is good. Can't say the same for the pump station. Yeah. I mean, all they have left, even with all the additional paving the state made them do, we're still going to come in at the number. So
We should be at or below. Right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's see, where are we? Letter F, the East Trunk Interceptor. We've actually got a grant, and I think I sent it with the first package that we got, but we've got an extension on the grant for that Mark Barnhart was at our last meeting, to December 31st of 2022, for the $750,000. So, that's a good thing.
Good work, Chris.
We can apply that to that. So, so let's see. The Riverside Drive Siphon. We had a meeting today on that project. The construction drawings are at 90% review. Time Bond did a construction cost estimate for it, and we went through it today. Myself, Bill, Laura Pooley, John, and Bill Hurley. And we think that Time Bond is a little on the lenient side of some of the factors that are in their construction cost estimate. Just to bring you up to speed on that, the project entails the existing bridge to be replaced with a box culvert, and then there's 2 siphons there that are going to be replaced with 3 new ones. There's some components that were not added into Time Bond's original proposal. So Laura's going back to Time Bond to have them reevaluate the construction cost estimate, and get us a current figure based on what we reviewed today. So Bill, I don't know if you want to add any more to that, but.
No, basically the numbers that we were looking at are 2 years old, number one. And number two, the bypass pumping, I think that they first initially carried was probably leaving some of the existing siphons in place, but now they're looking at bypassing the entire flow. So that's going to be a significant number.
Guys, can I remind you that that's not our project? That was initiated by the Conservation Department, that bridge and everything, and we just thought we'd piggyback on while they had it open. So be careful when the scope changes to only be dealing with what we are responsible for, the siphons themselves. All the digging and everything was supposed to be on conservation's dime.
Right.
Yeah,
I will
excellent
add, there was soil testing done there, and there is some contamination.
That's theirs.
So
That is not ours. That is soil contamination. They were going to dig that out anyway.
Okay.
Do they have a
Just
budget?
bringing it up.
I'm not going to vote for any more money on that one. Trust me.
No, sir.
So I think, are we done with that item, or you want to?
I am.
I think we've
touched. Yeah, let's
touched
keep
on
over.
everything. Let's see. The outfall, the purchasing has the bid documents. They're putting the front end together, and it should go out to bid within the next week, I would say, for that. So we do have a grant on that. It expires on June 30th, 2021. So we've got about 5 months to do it. It shouldn't take more than 2 weeks to do the work itself. But you know, it's got to go through the bidding and so forth. So let's see, the East Trunk Wetland Crossing, as we know, we just went through the RFPs. D&B engineers were selected as the design firm. I think they've been awarded based on the purchasing agreement, awarded the contract on that. Let's see, Jay, the wastewater treatment plant. Dennis, I don't know if you want to touch on that, or Bill. We've received the DEP approval agreement.
Yeah, no, I think that's just trying to get, as we said last month, so trying to get John up to speed and probably getting a meeting between John and Tom Bremer to, go ahead and figure out which way we're going to go as far as funding for the design. Right before Brian left, we had a meeting with Dennis and Chris Pierce from Wright Pearson, went over all this, and then we sent in the scope of service, and it's got to be the fastest turnaround in probably state history from DEP. They went ahead and probably within a month approved the scope of services.
2 weeks, Bill.
2 weeks. So
Yeah, remarkable.
it was remarkable. So, so we're just trying to go ahead and figure out, the funding options.
Chris, did you have any more items?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
right.
Sorry. The microgrid, we already touched on that. The project we need environmental testing to be done before the project can resume. We also need additional funding for the environmental work that needs to take place. The pipe size reduction in Stratfield Road and Woodfield Village, there's no update on that. We can go back to that in a few minutes. Dennis, I have a couple questions on that as well, so I just want to go back to that in a minute. The Unclewood Road 8-inch, the pipe crossing, the engineer, they're going to go through their DEP or DOT permit, and that won't take place until April, I can assume. So we probably won't hear from that for a little while. The corrosive pipe at Mill River, they put a dehumidifier in. I believe that's alleviated the problem over there, right?
Yeah, it's much drier down there now and things like that. And obviously this time of the year, we don't really have a big problem with it now. So we'll have to wait till spring and in the summer to see if we get any kind of humidity down there. That's when we'll be able to tell. But I think, we've got it pretty much handled right now. And then we'll monitor it to make sure that the corrosion's not getting any worse than it is right now.
All right, last item, phase 3 and 4 of the rehabilitation work. We have $400,000 in the budget that we carry to do I&I removal. The phase 3 is in the works right now. Dennis is actually working on the bid documents, which I believe Dennis will be sent within a week or two.
So I'm
and
actually,
phase 4 was gonna, yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have the documents are ready. I just need Corinne to give me a bid number.
Okay. Did you email her or did she give you,
I've tried to contact her a few times. Bill said she's pretty straight out the last week or so, so I haven't heard back from her yet.
yeah. Okay, she's just getting back, so she was out for a couple weeks. But the so the phase 4 is not going to take place until the fall or next spring, correct?
Yeah. So the way that we set it up is phase 3 is going to be I&I remediation only. So it'll be all trenchless repairs, all short liners and grouting and lining. And then phase 4 is structural repairs and additional investigative work, additional CCTV work and things like that. Some areas that the town was not able to CCTV but are concerned about. So yes, correct. They're both set up and ready to bid whenever the town is ready.
Okay. All right. So let's just back up to M, which is the reduction in the pipes in Stratfield Road. With the new pump station coming online, do we anticipate that being a problem or no, with that reduction in the pipes?
No, that's why we ran the 2
something
force
that we
mains.
should look into. Right. Okay. All right. Just if it was, maybe we want to expedite doing some I&I removal in that section, or replacing some of those lines.
Yeah, I think if you remember, one of the reasons we stayed away from that was it was going to cost like millions of dollars to upsize the gravity sewer pipe on the state road. So it doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be done. It just, that was the reason why we put 2 separate force main discharges in, so that we didn't have to do that. But
okay.
I think we still need to investigate that pipe a little bit more, Bill, right? Wasn't there some sections that we didn't televise?
I think there was some concerns with some grid settlement in some of those lines.
Okay.
So yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I just talked to Mark. Can you guys hear me? I don't know if okay.
Yep.
I just talked to Mark Ostrowski. Yep. And that they have to flush in CCTV the top 4 sections of that pipe. So it's something that's going to have to be looked into.
Oh, that's right. When we tried to do it, it was like half full of grit.
Yeah, Green Mountain wasn't able to get into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that about covers the new the projects, which there's an awful lot going on. Bill and Chris, do you guys need any support?
That's a loaded question.
The question is, how do we get it? Because, in these projects, conceptually, we wanted to fund some project oversight, project management. And yet it's every month, it's just the 2 of you. So,
right.
And Dennis, thank you for being here, Dennis.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, no, I think I'm okay right now. I don't know. Chris runs around a little bit.
I think Chris has a little reprieve right now because it's the winter time, so a lot of the road work is.
I was hoping things would slow down, but it really hasn't. So, but,
yeah,
it's part of the gig. So
right. On the just going a bit off topic, but on the prior discussion on the homeowner association that wants to tap in, I had asked Joe, leaned on Joe a few months ago to work up some thoughts on what an algorithm might look like for allocating expenses for such an endeavor, which is kind of a straw man, but it really, the obvious next step is to have a conversation with those homeowners and think about, can we help them out on the paving, or is there something else we can do? Can we finance some of it? Joe, are you still with us? You are, right?
I am.
If maybe perhaps you and I could work with Chris and the homeowner group and then bring back to the commission next month a few different options and get some feedback on those before we go any further. I think having them show up every month and kind of present engineering plans, we probably don't need to do that again.
I am fine with it. Just
I
let me know
agree.
when. Let me know when. That's all.
Just I know that
I know
maybe.
you had reached. No,
Go ahead, Chris.
Bill.
Well, I know in other
Joe
towns,
had
maybe.
reached out to engineering. Sorry, Joe had reached out to engineering, and Laura Pooley and Bill Hurley kind of replied back. There needs to be. Years ago, they said they put water main in for fire suppression up in Greenfield Hill, and they came up with a theory or a cost estimate of how this would be paid for. So, just to give you for instance, each homeowner that wants to tie in, the town ran this line at whatever expense it was at the time. Each homeowner that wants to connect into this and go off a well to city water pays roughly $10,000. Now they have an option to do 3 payments. I think it's 10,000 change, or one lump sum of 9,000 something. So, that's a thought, as well. We could do something, if they want to do something like that.
There's no one better than Joe D to come up with some options on what we might be able to do and what they might pay, and let's let him work his magic, and we kind of know what their upside is, or what their all-in contribution is. It's somewhere around 30,000.
In other municipalities that I worked at, I don't know, maybe Matt and Dennis can allude to this too, is those municipalities went ahead and paid for the project and then assessed the properties for 15 or 20 years.
Yep.
And that would be a month, a yearly cost.
Yeah, that was one of the straw men issues I had. And then we, as Mark alluded to when we've been talking about putting a lien on the house for those payments. So if they ever sold, the town would not be out of pocket. There are lots of things. I've got a few straw man proposals. We just need to decide what we want to do.
Yeah, Bill, I'll just I've seen that before, and I've also seen municipalities pay 100% of the main line, and the homeowner's responsible for the laterals.
Yep, I've got that one.
But I do have. I just want to say one thing, and I can try to research this out for you. But the first question is this in your sewer service area? Number one. Does anybody check the map?
It is.
It is.
It is.
I can check it.
Can you prove that the soils are not conducive to septic tanks with percolation reports or something like that? Because there is funding out there for sewer extensions if it's in the sewer service area. I don't believe the DEEP does not participate in that anymore. It's loan only, but there's some other programs out there. I can try to look into that for you, but Fairfield is a large community. There's too many. Your population might be too large to receive some of those grants, but I can look.
Yeah, there was a 2% loan out there, Dennis, that I saw.
Yeah, that would be. You wouldn't want that because you could borrow for cheaper.
No, we don't want that. I already investigated that.
But
it's got to be a grant if we get anything.
Yeah.
My only other concern would be, as the homeowners were mentioning, is the groundwater elevation. I mean, if it's that high, and they're talking about whether they're going down to the sewer, whether it's 8 feet or 4 feet, installation is if we have to dewater, is going to be
right
a lot more expensive than what they're saying.
Make sure you test the soils too.
Thanks, Dennis.
You got it,
that, Dennis. That's
I
box.
know.
That's the first box.
I know.
Yeah, and expect it to be dirty. Okay, so Chris, the intent there is to give you some support, not to kind of lean into your job. So
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I understand. So, I just want to make a comment. We still have to vote on the microgrid. So we were waiting for Nancy. I don't know if she's coming back or not, but we need an answer for this. So
yeah.
Oh, hey guys, I'm gonna jump off. All right, are you all set with me?
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. We'll see you next
good.
month.
Thank you, Dennis.
Chris, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Yep.
Good night, Dennis.
So we left the discussion on that in terms of whether or not we were going to have the cost split, I guess, between the town and the board.
Yeah, which is kind of a conceptual conversation we can have with ourselves, but it's how that conversation and when that conversation takes place. We're fortunate in that Joe plugs into these weekly calls, so he's got kind of frontline knowledge of where we are in terms of timing of this. And Joe, I'm going to defer to you based on that. How much time do we have? And in light of that, what do you think we should do?
We have zero time, just so you know. I mean, this is an ongoing project. They've got contractors on site, and they're continuing. The way the projects typically work is they just continue, and then they come to us sometimes when they need it, sometimes a little after the fact.
Yeah.
This one's probably on the fence. It might be close to a little after the fact.
I think we're mixing projects here. The Hardening project, they're on site. The microgrid, nothing's being done on the microgrid project.
I thought Ty and Bond was doing the testing.
They did the testing. That's already done. That's completed.
Testing.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about here with the cost overrun, isn't this they have to build they have to take soil samples and get rid of the dirt.
This is the oversight of them doing that work.
Right.
And retesting once they get down to the 3-foot level.
Okay.
And then that's only going to start happening if we give Holzner the go ahead to do the trench work.
Right.
Now this is all additional work. Obviously, the contractor that's doing the project, Yankee Electric, is not on site and hasn't been on for quite a while.
Well,
but this work has to be done first. No, this work has to get done pre the electrical contractor, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the trench has to be dug and cleaned, and then the electrical contractor can come in and put his conduit in.
Right.
Yeah, so it seems like we want to send a message to the town that this was a 50-50 deal, and we're going in the direction where it's not 50-50, and they're going to come back and say, you guys have $8 million in cash, go pound sand, and pay the $100,000, leave us alone. But it seems to me that the potential point of irritation is if this number goes from 100 to 500, and then we're somehow foreclosed in having the conversation with the town that you guys have to pay half of 500. So in a perfect world, we would ask Nancy to probably convey that message to someone within the town that this project is going over budget, and be prepared to participate in that. Would you guys agree?
I do.
Quinn, I agree also.
Okay. All right. So my proposal would be to pay it and ask Nancy to be our messenger of that message. Unless or option B is to go to the town and try to get them to pay $50,000, and that may take a few weeks or a few months.
And weeks and weeks, yeah.
This is Matt's here. Sorry, I lost my internet connection, so I called in. I agree with that path.
Joe, how do you feel?
No, I'm going to stick my guns, and you guys make the motion. I mean, obviously, it's
Okay.
it's not just me. It's everybody that makes a decision.
Yep, I understand. So I suspect if we make a motion, it may carry, and there may be a dissent.
Maybe.
Well,
There's only one way to find out.
Christian, model a motion for us.
Let me get the number we are looking at. We said $115,000, right? So I will make a motion to provide the additional funds in the amount and no more than $115,000 to support the cost overruns on the microgrid project.
I'll second that. Because I can't see anybody else. All in favor?
Second it.
Okay, we're
All
second.
in favor?
Quinn, Christian,
Quinn.
Mark's in favor.
That's in favor.
Opposed?
Here I am.
Joe's opposed. God bless you, Joe.
Thank you. I need all the blessings I can get.
Okay. Hey guys, that was a lot of ground we covered tonight. Thanks for staying with us.
Now, who do we want to propose this to Nancy, though? How do we want to get our message to the town?
I'll talk to Nancy in the next day or so.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn. Oh, I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Chris
All
and
right,
Bill,
take care. Be safe.
thanks for all the
You too.
Take
all the
care.
hard work.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah,
Thank you.
good night. Take care.